Bishop Academy Books. Presenting The Children's Encyclopedia by Arthur Mee.
Art, the story of the beautiful things in the treasure house of the world. What this story tells us. Who shall count the treasures of the world that men have made, the lovely things that have come down to us through the ages? Nature has filled the earth with beauty, and in the dark hours of the world it is good to remember that spring and summer have never failed to come, that the violet and the daffodil have never failed to bloom, that June will bring red roses and lift up the hearts of men. And man too has made a glory in the world not unworthy to compare with nature in her glory. It is good to think of all the heritage of art that comes to every child alive, of the gems that pack our museums, the glory that enriches our great galleries, the old cathedrals that stand to witness to the faith that man has never lost in his Creator. Here we shall read of the most beautiful things that men have made, the pictures and statues and buildings from all ages and all lands. The rich treasure that is ours. The art of the world is a glorious inheritance of which we can never be too proud, and it is our very own. The great pictures of a nation may hang on the walls of public galleries, but every time we go and look at them, it is as if we stamped them with our own names. They thus become our private collection, a treasure house of lovely things that time cannot wither nor custom make stale. And by a beautiful magic, the more miserly we are, the more we gloat upon our treasures and count them over, the richer we become. There is something extravagant in the world's showering of these gifts upon us, the children of a hard-working and meager day. It is not only in our galleries and museums, in great paintings and sculptures, that we find things to gladden our eye. Art is with us everywhere. We can scarcely walk by a bookseller's shop or a pottery store or a jeweler's window without being face to face with something we owe to the art of the past. It may be a picture painted and reproduced yesterday, an enamel or china bowl fresh from the maker's hands, but its beginnings lie in the remote civilizations of the world. It may be a beautiful doorway or a pedestal of modern construction, but the first stone was laid many thousands of years ago. The art of today is the inherited sense in large or small degree of the art of all time, so that our treasure, our inheritance is twofold. For centuries upon centuries, the nations of the earth have been creating and storing up lovely shapes and colors that are our joy today. These are a historic possession, and every year that passes, beautiful things are made, which owe their origin consciously or unconsciously to this historic possession, and in these we are again enriched. In art, more than in any other province of the world's history, we are indeed the heirs of all the ages. Surrounded as we are by innumerable expressions of art, we are apt sometimes to confuse an inspired picture with its imitations, and to take for great what is only cleverly shoddy. We need some standard by which to set our judgment, and we find sooner or later that the old masters are the best of all teachers. A picture or a statue is not necessarily good because it is old. A great deal of ancient art is mainly treasured because it is a vivid emblem of a dead civilization, and acts as illustrations to the book of days of an extinct race. But there are certain paintings and sculptures which can be taken as great art, the work of the loftiest genius the world has known, and they owe their proud place not merely to their antiquity, but to the judgment and verdict of history. In the minds of some people there is at first an unwillingness to take the opinion of another, even of generations of men. And often, if some of us were courageous and sincere, we should confess that we preferred the pretty pictures on a birthday card to the paintings of a Titian or a Botticelli. This is perhaps because we've never had an opportunity of studying art seriously enough. It takes two to make a picture, one to paint it and the other to look at it. A great picture is the subject the artist painted, plus the secret he painted into it. Until we understand something of that secret, we cannot fully appreciate our magnificent inheritance. The great art of the world, the art which has passed the ordeal of centuries of criticism, falls into three chief classes: painting, sculpture, and architecture. Architecture indeed may be called the parallel of all art, because for a long time pictures were only made to decorate spaces on walls, and they were painted on the fabric of the building itself. The frame picture is a comparatively modern adaptation of the colored wall panel, and statues were chiseled to adorn niches in temples and palaces or cut in low relief to make a long fresco pattern. Whatever it may be, sculpting, painting, or architecture, this work of the old masters owes its birth to an instinct common to its kindred. In almost every case, it was inspired by one of the great emotions of the human heart: love, sorrow, reverence, or worship, and without some such feeling no great art is ever conceived. Love has inspired more pictures than any other human emotion, but love bears a very wide interpretation. There is physical love, the love of husband, wife, or child; love of the mind, the love of abstract qualities such as truth and courage; spiritual love, the love of God and of the earth, which poets call the garment of God. The pictures inspired by sorrow are fewer, but move more intensely, because the tragedy of life is that death stalks our beloved, and sooner or later hurls his dart. Love, sorrow, worship, and in a way the greatest of these is worship, and holds in itself all three. Worship painted pictures, carved statues, built temples and cathedrals, and made them greater than man, because they held a sense of God, eternity. If we think seriously of any picture the world calls great, we shall see that this is the subject of one of these powerful emotions, and any work so conceived, if poorly executed, has in it the seeds of greatness because it strikes at the heart of the human race. This basic feeling, however, is, so to speak, the foundation, the scaffolding, and not the finished edifice. It is the subject the artist painted, minus the secret he painted into it, which some of us spend our lives trying to discover. The secret was his own imagination and sense of beauty, and therein lay his final and unapproachable greatness. We ask, what is beauty, what is imagination, and no one can find an answer. We know where beauty and imagination are revealed, in form and color, which satisfy the soul as food satisfies the body. But their nature is hidden deep in the mystery of life. We can think of them as senses of the spirit, as real as are the physical senses of sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. Just as our ears record the sound of a piece of music, and our eyes register an impression of the shape of a piece of stone, so these spirit senses feel the vision of perfect sound that makes the music beautiful, the vision of perfect contour that makes the stone a lovely statue. Beauty and imagination reach out beyond the actual to the ideal. For instance, thousands of artists have drawn portraits of old women. Rembrandt drew the portrait of an old woman, and it is one of the greatest things in the world, because having his sense of sight, he recorded the features. By his sense of beauty and imagination, he recorded something infinitely wonderful. Not the face of one old woman, but the lovableness, the dignity, sorrow, and otherworldliness of old age of all time. Hundreds of men have painted landscapes and got onto their canvases the glow of the sun and the radiance of the sea. Turner painted that same glowing sun and that same radiant sea, but his sense of beauty, his imagination, reached out to an intangible heavenly glory, and so he put into his pictures the light that never was on land, or C, the consecration and the poet's dream.